After Victor got engaged, I submitted my resignation under the pretense of traveling. He raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "Come back when you're done having fun." I greedily took in the sight of his sharp features and murmured a quiet mem. He didn't know I wouldn't be coming back. The moment he got engaged, my life began its countdown. Chapter 1. At an elite social gathering, Victor wrapped an arm around my shoulder and introduced me with familiarity and sincerity. "A friend of mine, heading out to explore the world. Please take care of them." The crystal chandelier above cast pure white reflections on Victor's chiseled side profile. As a friend, he had done everything he could for me, but I was selfish and despicable. Victor would never know the real reason I resigned. I had fallen in love with him. When the system brought me into this world, Victor Chan was still the illegitimate son of the Chan family, unacknowledged and unwelcome, banished from the center of power. He was given control over the family's least significant businesses. I applied to be his secretary. On my first day, Victor had a cigarette between his lips, his leather shoes lazily propped up on the desk. "Find another job. There's no future following me." I bent down, picked up the scattered documents from the floor, and neatly stacked them back onto his desk. "Future is something you carve out for yourself," I told him softly. "Mr. Chan, one day, you will become someone truly remarkable." Victor paused for a moment. His deep, dark eyes studied me for a long time without speaking. After I left, through the frosted glass, I saw him leaning back in his chair. He was staring straight at the ceiling, his gaze clear yet laced with a quiet vulnerability. That lost, helpless look of a young man, it stayed with me for 10 years. From the moment we met until now, at Victor's engagement banquet, he arranged for me to sit at the main table, too close to the bride. The hem of her wedding gown swept past me, and I could even see the massive diamond ring on her finger, glinting with a restrained elegance. Victor and his fiancée's marriage was purely a business alliance. There was no love involved. Seating me at the main table was his way of acknowledging my significance, just like how he had introduced me at the gathering, "A friend of mine. Please take care of them." There would always be a place for me in his heart, just not in the way I wished. The system told me that if Victor didn't marry me, I would be erased. "If you beg him, he'll agree." I smiled. Love or not, marriage or not, that's his choice. Just because I've stayed by his side for 10 years doesn't mean he owes me a future. I despised the idea that simply being with him meant he had to love me back. The system let out a sigh, its cold mechanical voice echoing in my mind. Bright red numbers flickered before my eyes. I had only 30 days left to live. Chapter 2. I submitted my resignation to Victor. Using travel as an excuse, he turned the letter over multiple times, then finally pressed his fingers against his brow. His voice low. "No need to resign. I'll give you a vacation. Come back when you're done having fun." I nodded slightly. Perhaps my face was too pale, so pale that even Victor noticed something was wrong. His tone softened a little. "You've worked hard all these years. Get some rest. There will always be a place for you at the company." I smiled and responded with a simple "all right." Victor stepped closer, raised his hand, and gently touched my face with a sigh. "You've lost weight again." His voice was warm. "Take care of yourself. Remember to eat properly, even when you're alone." I murmured a quiet mem. On the train, the system asked me, "Why do you think Victor doesn't like you? He's crossed the line with you so many times." "It doesn't matter anymore." I covered my mouth as I coughed, wiping the blood from my palm with a tissue. Tilting my head, I gazed out the window, my eyes reflecting the scattered stars. "I'm going to Yunnan. I heard it's beautiful there, full of roses." Once, when Victor and I were working on a business deal, we were rejected by a potential partner. That night, we sat under a bridge, huddled together for warmth, shivering in the cold. Victor pressed his lips against mine, gritting his teeth as he said, "Diana, when I make it big one day, I'll treat you well. You'll live a good life with me. Go anywhere without worry." The smile on my face slowly faded. I swallowed the metallic taste in my mouth, feeling a sudden pang of regret. I love roses so much. Yet after all this time, I've never once received a single red rose. Curled up, my eyes reddened as I thought, when I get to Yunnan, I'll buy myself a whole bucket of roses, the reddest, Most extravagant kind, so bright that just looking at them will lift my mood. I slowly closed my eyes. When I arrived in Yunnan, the moment I stepped out of the train station, I saw a nervous young man in a wrinkled suit holding up a sign, waiting for me. I was momentarily stunned before walking over. He was an assistant from one of Victor's suppliers in Yunnan. Mr. Chan specifically instructed us to take good care of you. Victor's business with Yunnan wasn't particularly strong, making such arrangements must have taken considerable effort. I quietly studied him for a few seconds before politely declining. That won't be necessary. I'd like to explore on my own. But, Miss Diana, you don't need to tell Victor anything. I smiled at him. Just say I'm doing well, having a great time, and that there's nothing to worry about. I didn't want to be entangled with him anymore, not in this final month. I found a bar to stay in, after living obediently for 2 lifetimes. Now that I was dying, I wanted to taste the feeling of indulgence. During the day, when the bar was quiet, I wandered around the small town with an umbrella and found a photo studio. I wanted to take a picture for my own obituary. I let my hair down, applied lip color, and asked the retoucher to make my skin look fairer, my smile softer, my lips curved just right. A black and white photo, framed, held to my chest. Under the confused gaze of the photographer, I wobbled out the door. Before I was transported into this story, I had died unexpectedly. A speeding car had taken away all my remaining years. Now, being able to anticipate my own death and prepare everything in advance felt strangely fascinating. At night, I swayed in the thick scent of cheap cocktails, my body moving to the pulse of the music, brushing against strangers, feeling their touches. I turned my head, gave a small smile, then continued to drown in the revelry, unaware of life and death. For this 1 month, I did everything I had once wanted to do but had been restrained from. I indulged. I exhausted my desires, and when there was nothing left, I simply lay back on a rocking chair, gazing at the beautiful scenery, waiting for my end to come. Chapter 3. Victor called me once in between. His voice was warm as he asked how I was enjoying my time. Before I could respond, a sweet, playful voice interrupted from the other end. You're on the phone, but you won't even pay attention to me. It was his fiancée. The blood in my veins instantly turned ice cold. Then, I heard Victor's helpless laughter, followed by the girl's dissatisfied murmurs. The chill subsided. My heartbeat steadied once more. I smiled. I'm doing well. Victor ended the call in a hurry, holding my phone. I stared blankly ahead at the rolling waves of green. Before the engagement, Victor hadn't even known his fiancée. It had only been half a month. I once heard that people destined to love each other would fall in love at first sight, confirm their relationship within 3 days, and be inseparable within a week. I never believed it before, but now, I had no grounds to refute it. My condition worsened. I could feel my life slipping away with eerie clarity. Blood still coursed beneath my skin, yet my body was unbearably cold, so cold that every cell screamed in pain. 50 meters from the bar, there was a stone bridge. Red roses grew in clusters at its edges, their fragrance mingling with Yunnan's soft breeze. Beneath the bridge, a rushing river carried withered petals toward an unknown abyss. This was the place I had chosen to die. I didn't want to die in a hospital. Tubes piercing my body, lying alone on a stark white bed, waiting for the inevitable. One day, I received a package from Victor, a beautifully wrapped box of wedding candies, and a crimson invitation, embossed with golden lettering, announcing his marriage. Inside the deep purple box was an assortment of dark chocolate. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, tore open the packaging, and let the bitter sweetness melt on my tongue, mixing with the taste of iron. It was rich, yet unbearably bitter. The first time Victor and I worked overtime together, I nearly fainted from low blood sugar. He had pulled open a drawer and tossed me a handful of brightly wrapped candies. Eat some, your body won't hold up otherwise. I shook my head and said softly, I'm on a diet. I was used to avoiding sweets. Victor's dark eyes lingered on me for a moment before he curled his lips. So troublesome. A few days later, he had a friend bring back dark chocolate from abroad and pushed it in front of me. Keep this with you. It won't make you gain weight. And don't starve yourself. It's bad for you. The deep purple, gold embossed packaging gleamed under the office lights. reflecting the serious concentration in Victor's face. That moment remained the most vivid memory of my 10 years here. For the first time in this world, I felt like I existed, that someone cared about me, that I could feel happiness, sorrow, and anger, that I was living as a real person, not just a puppet, shackled by fate, marching toward a predetermined ending. 8 days left. I received a call from Victor's assistant, Diego. The young man who had worked under Victor for 7 years spoke with polite deference. "Sister Diana, when will you be back? There are some tasks that need your approval." I scooped up a handful of Yunnan soil and tossed it into the air, watching the wind scatter it as I answered carelessly. "Make arrangements as if I'm not coming back. Find someone to take my place." Diego hesitated. "Are you not coming back at all?" I told him. "Don't tell Victor just yet." I pressed my lips together. Diego was someone I had personally trained, someone who had followed both Victor and me for 7 years. I wanted him to handle my final affairs, but when I tried to bring it up, I couldn't find the words. In the end, I simply sighed. "A week from now, I'll send you an email. Follow the instructions in it." I spoke gently. "Diego, work hard from now on, and if you ever get married, don't forget to burn some paper money for me." I caught myself mid-sentence, realizing how inappropriate it sounded, and stopped just in time. I gave him an apologetic smile. Instead, I simply told him, "Just do your best, Diego." Chapter 4. Maybe it was because I was nearing death, but these past few days, I kept dreaming of my past life, dreaming of my mother. Her cheapao traced the graceful curves of her figure, her skin fair and smooth like the most dazzling dancer in the imperial court. It was nothing like the final image of her, lying in a hospital bed, wasted away to mere bones, as frail as dry kindling. The man she had loved all her life, the one she had willingly become a mistress for, never showed up at her deathbed, even after countless phone calls, her voice hoarse from crying, begging him just to see her one last time. He only responded coldly, "You deserve to die. Take your daughter with you, alive or dead. You're nothing but a plague to others." He said this while I sat beside her, peeling an apple. The fruit knife slipped, nicking the pale skin of my fingertip. Blood welled up. I wiped it away without expression. She wept hysterically. I watched her for a while, finding it all rather absurd. Then, I went downstairs to buy another apple. Just as I stepped onto the road, the traffic light turned red. A drunken truck driver, utterly unaware, pressed down on the accelerator. Shattered glass reflected my body being flung into the air, my face frozen in terror. The last thought in my mind before death was of that woman. Now that even I had abandoned her, how would she go on? 3 days left. Perhaps it was a final burst of energy before the end, but I suddenly found the strength to move. Wrapped in a long scarf, my hair tied up carelessly, I put on some lip color and blush, wandering aimlessly through the stone-paved streets. At a street stall, a vendor was making sugar figurines. A little girl watched longingly, clutching her mother's sleeve. Her mother, worn and weary, knelt down and whispered tearfully, "Sweetheart, we need to save money for Daddy's treatment." I stepped forward, bought a panda-shaped sugar figurine, and placed it in the little girl's hand. She looked up timidly, her pale face filled with wonder, and softly called me, "Big sister." Her mother scrambled to thank me. I watched them leave, feeling tired. I decided to head back, but just as I turned around, I saw the last face I ever wanted to see, standing on the steps of the town's government building. Diego. The moment he saw me, he ran over, his face lighting up with excitement. "Sister Diana, Mr. Chan is inside. Let me take you." I cut him off. "Why are you here? There's a forum happening here." Mr. Chan was invited to attend, Diego explained. Then he asked, "Where are you staying?" I checked all the lodging records in town, but I couldn't find you. The bar I was staying at wasn't a proper hotel. I couldn't remember if I had even registered. I clutched my scarf a little tighter and spoke slowly. "Diego, can you not tell?" "Not tell who?" A calm voice interrupted. "Victor." I fell silent immediately. Chapter 5. The moment I saw Victor, It was as if my failing organs were jolted back to life. My blood warmed, pulsing through my veins in rhythm with my heart. I stood still, tilting my head up to look at him in silence. A month had passed, yet he remained unchanged, his suit immaculate, leather shoes gleaming, tie neatly knotted against his chest. Still dazzling, still confident and in control. He frowned at me. "You've lost so much weight. Haven't you been eating properly?" I shook my head. "Maybe I'm not used to the food here. Did you go to the hospital?" "No need. I'm fine." He raised his hand, trying to touch my head. I turned away, dodging him. His arm hovered for a second before he casually withdrew it, smiling as if nothing had happened. "When are you coming back?" "In a few days." I lowered my gaze. "I really like it here. I want to stay a little longer." He nodded slightly. "That's good. Take your time and relax." As if something crossed his mind, his expression softened. "When you return, my wife and I will take you out for dinner." The streets of Yunnan carried the scent of flowers on the breeze. I easily recognized the fragrance of roses. I loved roses because she loved them. At her most dazzling, she would sway her hips, a vibrant red rose tucked behind her ear. And because of that year, when Victor first returned to the Chan family, standing in a room full of silent, resentful relatives, he had casually reached out and snapped the stem of a corolla red rose from his sister's potted plant. He leaned against the table, his eyes smiling as he called me over. "Diana, come here." Then, in front of the entire Chan family, he tucked the rose behind my ear. Bold, passionate, a public declaration of his favoritism. It was in that moment that I first dared to dream, perhaps, just perhaps, I could marry him, stay by his side forever. I smiled faintly, pulling my scarf tighter around myself. Softly, I asked, "And you? How long will you be here?" 3 days. Victor lifted a hand and pressed it against my forehead, ignoring my attempt to resist. Feeling the coldness of my skin, his brows furrowed even deeper. "You sure you're okay? You're freezing." I shook my head. Victor studied me for a moment, his tone dropping into something heavier. "Once we're back in the capital, I'll arrange a full medical exam for you." I didn't refuse. Victor stepped forward and effortlessly lifted me into his arms, setting me down on a stone ledge. "Rest for a bit, then take me around town. Will you?" He smiled. "Show me your favorite place in Yunnan." My muddled mind had just begun formulating an excuse to leave when his words, laced with warmth, interrupted me, dragging me back into torment. Panic surged through me. I pushed him away, tightening my scarf around myself as I steadied my stance. Sunlight illuminated my pale, almost translucent skin. "Victor, do you realize that you're married now? We shouldn't be like this anymore." Victor froze, straightening his posture. His expression turned neutral. "Whether I'm married or not, Diana, you will always be the most important person to me. Always, always." A place in his heart, without blood ties, without legal bindings, but also without love. In the world of adults, those two words should never stand side by side. I lifted my gaze, staring into Victor's warm, smiling eyes, and suddenly, I no longer wanted to pretend. I asked him, "Victor, do you know that I love you?" Victor knew. Of course. He knew. I was never a good actress. I could never hide my emotions, never conceal the overwhelming affection that poured out of me. It was there, clear as day, in my every movement, every glance, every lingering pause. In every moment I hesitated but never spoke. He knew, but he had never once acknowledged it. Victor's hand clenched unconsciously into a fist. He opened his mouth slightly but said nothing. I looked at him and spoke softly. "If you know, Victor, then please don't come near me again. Give me time. Let me rest and forget my feelings for you. Can you do that?" Victor left. The empty street was filled only with the scent of roses carried by the wind and the distant laughter of children. The metallic taste of blood crept up my throat. That familiar, bitter tang. As my body gradually regained sensation, I realized I had lied to Victor. I didn't want to forget my love for him. My love for him was the only thing that made me feel real in this world. It was the only thing that kept me alive, reminding me that I was still human, not just a creature made of code, existing solely for a predetermined purpose, waiting for the taste of blood to fade from my mouth. I braced myself against the wall and slowly walked back to the bar. Chapter 6. 2 days left. At dawn, I crouched among the sea of roses, wrapped in my coat, digging into the earth with all my strength. A hand patted my head. It was the bar owner's son. His eyes were bright and innocent, his skin darkened by the sun, and when he smiled, a row of white teeth gleamed. He was at that age, youthful, naive, and filled with vague admiration. I didn't want to leave any scars on his heart. Dropping the small shovel, I forced myself to stand and took 3 steps back. My face remained expressionless. "What do you want?" He hesitated, looking unsure, before extending his arm. A bun, still steaming, sat in his palm. "I saw you up early, and you haven't had breakfast yet. I bought this for you." "Thanks." I smiled but refused. "I don't need it. Just eat a little. Skipping meals isn't. I have someone I love very much," I told him, "and I will never love anyone else in this lifetime." Bending down, I plucked a rose and carefully stripped away its thorns. My voice was soft. "Stay away from me. It's better for both of us." The boy ran away quickly, his eyes filled with heartbreak and sorrow. The bun landed on the ground, steaming, absorbing the scent of roses. I bent down, picked it up, and looked at it for a long moment before tossing it into the trash. Wrapped in my coat, I returned to the bar. The moment I stepped inside, I sensed something was wrong. The landlady's usual loud voice was gone. The clatter of dishes and glasses had ceased. Everyone stood in silence, eyes flickering toward the figure at the bar, the one absent-mindedly stirring a blue cocktail. Victor. And beside him, looking visibly tense, was Diego. I froze for a moment before walking over, my voice laced with confusion. "Why are you here?" Victor looked up and smiled at me. "Diana, Diego told me you're not planning to return?" His voice was gentle, too gentle. It sent a chill down my spine. The entire bar was too quiet, so quiet that it made my heart race with unease. I tightened my coat around myself. "Let's talk in my room." "Not here." The small, run-down room was damp, its walls covered in moss. The air carried the scent of decay. Victor sat on the single bed, surveying his surroundings. He let out a quiet scoff. "So if you're not going back, you plan to live here?" I handed him a disposable cup of water. "It's fine. It's livable." Victor let out a short laugh, but his silence spoke volumes. He was irritated now. His usual restraint and poise had cracked, revealing his growing impatience. Taking a deep breath, he asked me seriously, "Why don't you want to go back?" "I just don't want to." I held the paper cup in my hands. "I've worked for so many years. I want to take a proper break. I can give you time off." Victor clenched his jaw, trying to hold back his frustration. "Diana, we built the Chan Empire together. You can't just walk away." His tone was firm, as if he were sincerely trying to convince me to stay, but all I felt was exhaustion. So, he had to tear away my last shred of dignity before he was satisfied? I looked up at him. "Victor, do you want me to stay and personally witness how much you love your wife?" "I don't." I cut him off. "Let me tell you something, Victor. I can't do it, and your wife wouldn't allow me to stay by your side either. Let me go, Victor. It's better for both of us. Let me die in Yunnan. Let me die among the roses, surrounded by the strongest fragrance, ending this existence that no one truly welcomed." Victor fell silent. After a long while, he straightened, raising his hand to touch my head. His voice carried a hint of helplessness. "Diana, you are the most important person in my life. If you ask, I will give you anything." 10 years. Diana, a lifetime. How many decades do we have? Can you really just walk away from everything we've built? What noble-sounding words. Every sentence condemned me for being heartless, while simultaneously painting him as the one being abandoned. Truly fitting for the man who, at a bidding conference, had single-handedly outmaneuvered 3 corporate giants with nothing but his words. I lifted my head, my gaze tracing the sharp lines of his jaw before settling on his face, his deep, seemingly affectionate eyes. He was looking at me, soft, full of unspoken emotions. It was ridiculous. I leaned in, my voice steady. Victor, do you really not understand what it means if I go back? If I stay by your side? You know I love you. You also know that as the secretary who has followed you for 10 years, my position becomes awkward the moment you marry. Yet you pretend not to see it, pretend not to hear it, and now, you're blaming me for being the one to leave. A dark, absurd thought crept into my mind. He knew everything. He was just playing dumb, unwilling to give up the benefits of his marriage while also refusing to let go of the warmth I provided. He was waiting for me to throw away my dignity, to surrender to him, to kneel at his feet, disregarding morals and conscience. I met his gaze and softly asked, Victor, if you want me to stay by your side forever, under what title would that be? A sister with no blood relation? A secretary closer than a wife? Or a hidden mistress, never meant to see the light of day? His face turned deathly pale. For the first time, genuine panic flickered in his always calm eyes. He had thought about it. He wasn't as noble as I once believed. A quiet laugh escaped my lips. With all the strength I had left, I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. I watched as his body tilted slightly from the impact, as his expression shifted into something between shock and feigned innocence. Blood rose in my throat, thick with nausea and grief, wiping the corner of my lips. I met his gaze and spoke coldly. Victor, you want both. That's disgusting. Chapter 7. Victor lowered his head, silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke in a quiet voice. I'm sorry. I never intended for you to be my mistress, but I won't deny that when I thought about keeping you by my side forever, I did consider it. I'm ashamed of that thought. But Diana, my desire to keep you close is sincere. You are the most important person in my life, always. I closed my eyes and let out a bitter laugh. Victor, do you think that no matter what you do, I will never leave? That I will always follow you, content to be a shadow without expectations? When he agreed to the marriage, he never imagined that I would be so resolute about leaving. Maybe he knew I would be upset, but in his mind, I would just hide away and cry for a while. He would comfort me, and then everything would return to normal, because I had always been steadfast. He never thought he needed to care. How ridiculous. Victor didn't deny it. He simply said softly, in these 10 years, I've faced countless betrayals. Everyone used me as a stepping stone to climb higher. But you, only you, stayed by my side from the beginning to the end. Before I got engaged, I didn't realize this marriage would hurt you so much that you'd leave. Diana, if breaking off the engagement would make you stay, I'll do it anytime. Only now that I was truly leaving did Victor start searching for ways to make amends. I watched as he silently applied his negotiation tactics, carefully observing my reactions, calculating how to achieve his goal while maximizing his benefits. Having grown up in an orphanage, lacking the foundation of moral education, he probably still couldn't understand. How could a marriage without love, just a legal contract, make me so determined to leave? I curled my lips in a faint smile. Victor suddenly reached out, grabbing my wrist. Ignoring my struggle, he pushed up my sleeve, revealing the scar on my elbow. Once, it had been a deep, bone-deep wound. Now, only a faint mark remained. His fingertips brushed over it. His voice was quiet. Diana, in my position, I have countless ways to keep you here. Threats, imprisonment, even coercion. There are so many things and people you care about. I only need to seize one, and you will never escape. His fingers traced the scar with a rare gentleness. But I don't want to do that. His gaze softened. The night you took that knife for me, I swore that I would never let anyone hurt you, not even myself. His deep, dark eyes locked onto mine, his voice firm yet filled with an undeniable tenderness. So, Diana, I'll ask you one last time. Will you come with me? I stared at him, from his lips to his sharp nose. And finally, into those eyes filled with hope. Victor's eyes were beautiful, slightly upturned at the corners, always shimmering, carrying an effortless allure that could captivate anyone. The first time I saw him, I was drawn in by those eyes, and then I fell into the abyss. Only now did I finally understand. Victor, this cold-blooded capitalist, had nothing worth loving. I leaned in, my voice slow and deliberate. I won't. Taking that knife for Victor had been a long time ago. He had been just past 20 then, still brimming with youthful arrogance. That day, he and I had closed a major contract. Excited, we planned to celebrate. But as we walked down the bustling streets, his elder brother sent men to ambush us in broad daylight. We were knocked unconscious and thrown into a dark, desolate alley. There, 4 thugs waited, tasked with destroying me and cutting off one of Victor's hands. That night, the wind howled, rain lashing down in torrents. They yanked my hair, shoving my face into a pool of filthy water. My consciousness flickered as suffocation and pain drowned me in despair. Then, I saw the glint of a blade. Without thinking, I lunged forward, shielding Victor from the knife. Police sirens blared in the distance, and we barely escaped with our lives. When I woke up in the hospital, Victor was holding me so tightly that I could barely breathe. His tears soaked into my clothes, slipping past my collarbone, icy cold. From that day on, Victor changed. He no longer showed mercy, no longer played nice. His methods became ruthless, brutal. He transformed into a businessman who cared about nothing but profit. When Victor agreed to the engagement, he had told me once, "Mao has deep roots overseas. I need their influence to climb even higher." At that time, I asked him, "So even marriage is just another business transaction to you?" Victor had laughed, patting my head. "Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be?" Looking at Victor now, corrupted by power and wealth, I found that I had no rebuttal. The love I had once believed in, the sincerity I once held on to, probably seemed as naive as a child's game in his eyes. Chapter 8. Victor imprisoned me. 4 bodyguards stood guard outside my door in shifts, preventing me from leaving. Every time I walked toward the entrance, I was met with their respectful yet anxious expressions. "If we let you out, we'll lose our jobs. Miss Diana, please, have mercy on us." Hearing such pleading from towering men felt absurdly out of place, but it was effective. Victor was right, I had too many weaknesses. He only needed to grasp one, and I would never be able to break free. With no way out, I could only talk to the system. It was utterly confused. Things have escalated this far, yet marrying him is still not an option. If you just say the word, he wouldn't dare let you die. I smiled. The familiar metallic taste welled up in my throat. I swallowed it down without reaction and wiped my lips with practiced ease. Softly, I replied, "If marriage was what I wanted, why would I wait until now?" If I had told Victor from the start, he would never have let me die. He would have done exactly what he was doing now, pulling every trick, using every method to keep me. He would have given me the grandest, most unforgettable wedding, showcasing his deep affection for me before the entire world, paying any price to ensure my survival. From beginning to end, I was never incapable of living. I simply never wanted to live. The system fell silent. The static buzzed for a long time before its stunned voice finally emerged. "Why? Do you know why Victor was always so confident that I would never leave him? Because of this idiotic mission. I was brought into this world for Victor. Every moment of the past 10 years revolved around him. If I left him, I would die, so I had no choice but to follow him forever, like the most loyal dog. But that's just the mission requirement. Yes, it was the requirement, the price of my existence." I changed the subject. "Do you think a mission like this has any meaning? We granted you another life in exchange for the data we wanted. It's a fair trade." Yes, it was fair. Survival was an instinct written into every creature's DNA. The mission gave me a chance to live. I should be grateful. But if it was so fair, why did it feel so suffocating? For 10 years, I had revolved around Victor. No freedom, no autonomy. Every decision I made wasn't for myself, it was for him. His name became my waking nightmare. Victor once said that people came and went in his life, that I was the only one who had never betrayed him. But, Victor, I wanted to. I wanted to betray you. I wanted to leave. I wanted to use you as a stepping stone to climb higher. But that was all it ever was, a thought. Because this life wasn't truly mine. Because other than staying with you, I had no other choice. I loathe this kind of existence, living without dignity, without freedom, without choices. I would rather choose death. A long silence stretched between us before the system spoke again, its voice much quieter. Asterisk, but no matter what, staying alive is the most important thing. As long as you're alive, there's still hope. Asterisk. I know. I let out a soft laugh. That's why, at the beginning, I hoped Victor would choose to marry me. I hoped that, in his eyes, I would matter more than his so-called interests and calculations. I had hoped his feelings for me would be real, something that would give me a reason to submit to this pathetic fate. But in the end, I was disappointed. In this lonely, unfamiliar world, I still never received anything truly sincere. I'm tired. I don't want to keep suppressing myself or surrendering to this ridiculous destiny. Really, death, to me, might just be the greatest relief. Chapter 9. On my final day, I woke up late. I got dressed, picked up a hoe, and walked to the bridge, to the rose field. The bodyguards tried to stop me, so I called Victor right in front of them. His voice was soft, expectant. Have you thought it through, Victor? Come find me, I murmured. At the bridge in front of the bar. He hesitated for a moment, then answered, okay. There was a trace of excitement in his voice. In truth, with my body in its current state, I could barely even lift the hoe. I struggled to drag it downstairs, one step at a time. The bar owner's son saw me and couldn't stand it any longer. He took the hoe from me. Where are you going? I'll take you there. I thanked him. Victor's wedding was at noon. So was my time of death. Sunlight draped golden hues over the bridge, glinting off the stone railing. The young man handed the hoe back to me, looking concerned. Are you really okay? I shook my head, the corners of my pale lips lifting slightly as I whispered my thanks. Everything hurt. The pain curled inside me like a beast, clawing at my ribs. I nearly collapsed against the bridge's stone post, sweat rolling down my forehead like beads. My vision blurred. I bit my lip hard, the metallic taste of blood spreading over my tongue. My body felt ice cold. I stayed like that for a long time, until I could gather enough strength to push myself upright. Wiping the sweat from my brow and the blood from my lips, I forced myself to loosen the soil around the roses, kneeling down to press a kiss against the thorn stem. From the corner of my eye, I saw Victor appear on the other side of the bridge. He walked toward me quickly, his expression darkening. Why do you look so pale? Didn't sleep well? He reached for me, his hands filled with nothing but worry, like I was truly something precious to him. I let him steady me, looking up at that composed, well-mannered face, and suddenly, I laughed. No one knew better than I did just how cold, how ruthless the heart beneath that handsome exterior truly was. I spoke, my voice soft. Victor, do you know, for the past 2 days, I've been regretting ever coming close to you. You're selfish, you're shameless. You see everyone's kindness as nothing but tools for your own benefit. Diana. Victor froze. What are you saying? I straightened my back, letting the wind brush against my face as I looked directly at him. I said you're shameless, despicable, disgusting. No matter how high you climb, it won't change the rot inside you. If I could do it all over again, I would never, never let myself meet you. Victor's carefully controlled expression started to crack. His mask fell apart, revealing something raw, something twisted. He grabbed my shoulders, shaking me slightly. Diana, you knew exactly what kind of person I was from the start. I am selfish. I am ruthless. I am unfeeling. But I have never used those methods against you. If I hadn't been this way, I wouldn't have survived. Diana, you understand that more than anyone. His eyes were red at the corners. He held me tightly, his chin resting against my shoulder, his tears soaking into my clothes. Just like that night, the night I took a knife for him. We've been through so much together. Diana, how can you just erase everything we had? You're too important to me. I would do anything for you. Diana, why are you being so cruel to me? Cruel? Oh, Victor, this was just a few words. No wounds, no broken bones. How could it compare to the way fate had tormented me over and over again? My hatred for my fate had no real outlet, so I let it all fall on you. You weren't innocent. Anyway, my voice softened. I patted his shoulder lightly, whispering, Victor, then, Will you marry me? His body stiffened. Perhaps. In that brief moment, he was weighing the losses and gains. I smiled faintly, cutting off his thoughts before he could finish them. There's no need to answer me right now. Take your time. I swallowed the blood rising in my throat, my gaze shifting to the bottom right corner of my vision, where the numbers were counting down to 0. Let me be alone for a while. Victor, go back. Think carefully. Make all the necessary arrangements. And then come find me. I'll be right here. Always. I will never leave. Always. The word left my lips, laced with the taste of blood, shimmering against the glowing red countdown in my eyes. It felt so wrong. I gave Victor a dream, something fragile, something beautiful, something he could cradle in his hands like a treasure, until the day that dream shattered. Chapter 10. I sent Victor away. His clothes were disheveled, his neck and shoulders speckled with the blood I had coughed up, but he was too panicked to notice. Victor would marry me. He had feelings for me. He just needed time to think, to weigh his options, to measure the benefits and losses. And yet, I just happened to need a love that didn't require calculation. Leaning against the stone post, I felt warm blood trickle from my lips, trailing down my neck and onto my collar. Victor's face will be quite a sight when he finds out I'm dead. He will break, he will cry, he will grieve, he will regret, forever haunted by his hesitation, by his choice to walk away in that moment. He will never find peace. But this isn't revenge. I don't hate Victor. I simply wish that no matter how many lovers he takes, no matter how deeply he falls for someone else, no matter how many extraordinary people he meets, a part of his heart will always belong to me, even if that part is filled with regret, with hatred, with a torment he can never escape in the dead of night. I smiled, thinking of my mother, that selfish woman who had shamelessly inserted herself into another's marriage. In the end, I am no different from her. Staggering slightly, I climbed onto the edge of the stone bridge. The river below roared, its surface frothing in waves. The air was thick with the scent of roses. Red roses were always my favorite. If no one else would buy them for me, it was fine. I could buy them for myself, set them by my bedside, let their fragrance lull me to sleep. Fate had tried to strip me of my dignity, reducing my worth to nothing more than my attachment to Victor. I couldn't change that. But that was okay, because I could choose this moment, to die as a person, rather than live as a dog. The countdown reached its final 10 seconds. I spread my arms wide, embracing the scorching sun and the whispering wind, facing the rushing river, the swirling sands, and smiling. I leapt. Let me have a dream I never wake from. A dream where I am free, where I walk under the sun with my head held high, where I live not for anyone else, but for myself. I would study, read, fall in love, give speeches, compete, pursue anything I wished, meet anyone I wanted, sing any song my heart desired. There would be no system, no mission, no strategies to follow, and no life that could be erased at someone else's whim. Wild and unrestrained, a life that was lived for me alone. Victor's epilogue. Chapter 1. Diana is dead. The scene outside was chaotic, swarming with police. I stood at the edge of the crowd, listening to the murmurs of that familiar name. My brows furrowed as I turned to Diego. What did they say? Who died? Diego's face turned deathly pale. He collapsed onto his knees, hands covering his eyes as tears streamed through his fingers. I stared at him in confusion. Why was he crying? Who died? Diana? No, impossible. She couldn't be dead. She couldn't be dead. Suddenly, something snapped inside me. I shoved past the police barricade, stumbling forward, desperate to see the body dragged from the river, bloated, pale, and disfigured by the water. A white sheet was lifted, and I saw it, that water-swollen, ghostly, grotesque face, a face I knew better than my own nightmares. My knees buckled. I collapsed onto the wet, muddy ground. My hands landed on broken gravel, slicing through my palms. Blood dripped. I didn't feel it. I muttered to myself. She was already chubby. Now she looks even worse. My voice trembled. Wake up, Diana. I won't mind. I swear. I don't mind. I don't know how, but I crawled toward her, fingers shaking as they brushed against her cold, lifeless cheek. The tears wouldn't stop. I held her head in my lap, tilted my face to the sky, and screamed. That day was a blur of chaos and horror. I cried like a child, gasping, choking, unable to breathe. My head pounded with unbearable noise, until, at some point, I collapsed over her body and blacked out. When I woke up in the hospital, my first instinct was to call her name, Diana. Then I saw the hand that passed me a glass of water. My heart, clenched in terror, finally loosened. I let out a heavy breath and told her, I just had the worst dream. I dreamed you died. Can you believe how ridiculous that is? The hand froze midair. Diego stood at the foot of my bed, mouth slightly open, struggling to say something. Something felt wrong. I turned my head and saw her. Monica, my fiancée. There was no Diana. Crash. The water glass slipped from my hand, shattering across the floor. Glass shards scattered, piercing into my skin. But the real wound was inside, deep, bleeding, incurable. Monica gave me a pitiful smile. Diana committed suicide. Victor, don't take it too hard. Too hard? I laughed. No, I'm not sad. I bit down on my lower lip, swallowing the taste of iron. My body trembled, but I forced myself to sit up, my voice sharp and venomous. I won't grieve for her. Suicide. Diana, was this your plan? Was this your way of punishing me? You think I'll regret it? You think you can haunt me from the grave? Keep dreaming. I forced the blood back down my throat, steadied my breath, and gave Diego my orders. The wedding will continue. We're returning to the capital now. But, sir, no buts. I snapped, glaring. I said we're leaving immediately. Diana, you told me to marry you. You promised you would be waiting. And then the very next moment, you died? What were you trying to do? Make me regret? Use your death to hurt me? Ridiculous. You're dead. And I'm still here, on top of the world, surrounded by luxury, wealth, and power. Women will still throw themselves at me. Women who are more beautiful than you, sweeter, simpler, with bigger eyes, straighter noses, slim, curvy, elegant, alluring, every kind of beauty, endless choices. And you? You'll rot in the dirt, your body devoured by insects. Who should regret it? Who should be punished? You, Diana, you. I clenched my fists. The rage boiling in my chest found no release. With a single swipe, I knocked everything off my desk. Papers scattered. A small potted succulent, one that Diana had bought, shattered on the floor. Her favorite black fountain pen rolled across the tiles. A glass vase she had carefully arranged toppled over, spilling water and petals into the mess. In the middle of the wreckage, I collapsed into my chair, covering my eyes, hiding the tears that threatened to fall. Diana, you can't punish me. I won't regret this. I never will. Victor's Epilogue. Chapter 2. I deliberately erased her from my life. Diego, Monica, the business partners. I forbade them from mentioning her name. For a while, Diana truly disappeared. Everything continued in an orderly manner. The new secretary was diligent and efficient. She made better coffee than Diana ever did, and her latte art was flawless. Diego spoke less, but his professionalism remained intact. The wedding preparations proceeded smoothly. The venue, the officiant, everything was set. Mao even brought in a few celebrities, insisting that appearances had to be maintained. Everything was normal. Everything was progressing. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, cigarette between my fingers, murmuring to my own reflection, see, even without you, I'm doing just fine. My life, my career, nothing has changed. Everything is still thriving. You should be the one regretting this. The glass reflected a tired face, mine, empty, only me, my vision blurred. I had thought that if no one mentioned her, I would gradually forget her, that if every trace of her presence was erased, forgetting her would be easy. Then Monica asked me to go wedding dress shopping with her. I had nothing better to do, so I went. She stepped out of the dressing room, fully adorned. My gaze swept over her lazily, from the high heels to the curve of her waist in the mermaid gown. Up to the crown nestled atop her bun. Something felt off. Her legs should be a little longer, her waist a little thinner, her face a little fuller. Her eyes should tilt upwards at the corners. Her lips, wrong color. She always wore rose pink. She even made me help her pick out a shade once, insisting it was her favorite. Wait, who was I thinking of? My breathing turned erratic. I spun around and walked out, ignoring Monica's calls behind me. Sitting in my car, hands clenched around the steering wheel, I closed my eyes and forced my heart to slow. Just this morning, while brushing my teeth, I had thought, I hardly think about her anymore. Maybe I'm finally forgetting. But why? Why does she haunt me like a ghost? Slipping into my thoughts, seeping into my life, impossible to shut out? Annoyance surged through me. I slammed my foot on the gas. The car tore through the mountain roads. The windows rolled down. The wind roared inside, cooling the sweat on my forehead. Whenever I was frustrated, she used to sit beside me, coming here to speed down the cliffs. Even when she was terrified, fingers deathly pale as they gripped the seatbelt, she would force herself to act unfazed. She once told me, "Everything will pass. You have to keep moving forward." Yes, everything will pass, even forgetting you. I pulled the car to a stop at the peak. Crouching down, I plucked a morning glory from the ground, chuckling at myself. You always liked these pathetic flowers. No one responded. I froze. The wind stopped. Even the rushing waters below the cliff seemed to freeze over. In that moment, the blood in my veins turned ice cold. Victor's epilogue. Chapter 3. I blamed everything on nostalgia. The day the wedding ended, I left for overseas business. Back-to-back phone calls annoyed me. Annoyed. I picked up Monica's. "I don't care about your damn problems. Don't bother me again." She fell silent, afraid to say more. As if anyone in this industry was clean, I let out a cold laugh. The foreign market was expanding rapidly, tons of work, endless meetings. I buried myself in it, working late into the night, sleeping in the office more often than not. Even my assistant lost 10 pounds before he finally collapsed and asked for leave. Looking at his sallow face, I felt nothing but irritation. And then, inexplicably, I thought of her. The first few years were hard. She worked even more relentlessly than I did. Occasionally, she'd grumble about her hair falling out. "Go," I said, my own face pale. "Get some rest." The city outside the floor-to-ceiling window was dazzling, overflowing with noise and brilliance. She liked these windows, said they felt open, unrestrained. So every office I had, no matter where, was designed that way. Paris air was damp, always carrying a trace of rain. The moment I smelled it, I thought of how she hated humidity, how she always carried dehumidifiers. She had never been to Paris with me. And yet, as I stood on the Champs-Élysées, I saw her everywhere. Her laughter, her teasing, the way she'd tug on my sleeve, swaying back and forth, saying she wanted ice cream. But when I bought the most expensive one, turning to hand it to her, she was gone. Just like that fleeting silhouette, just like her soft whining, all of it was nothing more than an illusion in my head. The ice cream had melted, sticky against my fingers. I stared at it for a moment before lowering my head, taking a slow lick. So sweet. Weren't you always avoiding sugar for your diet? This is too sweet. How could you eat something like this? Wake up. Tell me yourself. Wake up. And I'll fund research into sugar-free boba. Sugar-free yogurt. I'll build an entire factory producing nothing but sugar-free products just for you. As long as you wake up, I'll give you anything. Would that be enough? At some point, the tears came. They stung my nose, burned against my skin, slid down my face. I didn't bother wiping them. Suddenly, I felt exhausted. I had spent so much energy trying to forget her, trying to convince myself she was just another woman, that her death meant nothing to me, just to protect this fragile, pathetic self-respect of mine. But who would believe that? Diego, Monica, the business partners. No one dared to mention her. But every time they looked at me, their eyes were filled with pity. Yes, pity. Victor Chan, so high up, so powerful, being pitied. How ridiculous. I crouched down, pressing a hand to my chest. It was empty. So empty it hurt. Tears rolled down my face, slipping past my lips, seeping into my throat, bitter, acrid, unbearable. And when I looked up, I saw her, Diana, wrapped in her scarf, standing before me, watching me quietly. She reached out a pale hand. I felt wronged. I refused to take it. I just stared at her, waiting for her to coax me, to say something, anything. But she withdrew her hand, shaking her head. Her voice was soft, yet cold. Victor, no one waits forever. Then, in an instant, she was gone. I lunged forward, but all I met was the unforgiving pavement. My forehead slammed into the stone ground. My glasses shattered. The world blurred into a haze of dizziness. Still, I reached out, fumbling blindly, bumping into a lamppost, scraping against the ground, tumbling into a flower bed, swarming with insects. In the end, I knelt there, staring up at the sky, blood and tears mixed together, seeping into the corners of my mouth. And with despair, they sank into my soul. Victor's epilogue. Chapter 4. Everyone told me that time would erase everything. I believed them. From that night in Paris onward, Diana became a forbidden name. No one dared to mention her. I drowned myself in work, convincing myself that as long as I kept busy, the ache she left behind wouldn't consume me. 10 years. 10 years. And I had climbed as high as I could go, standing at the floor-to-ceiling window at the very top of the empire I built. I looked down. Beneath my feet lay wealth, power, an endless flattery, everything others envied and craved. 10 years. I thought that if I ever saw Diana again, I would be able to greet her with indifference. See? Even without you, I lived just fine. I got married. My career flourished. She would stand there, wearing a simple white dress, gazing at me in silence. Then, she would step forward, reach for my tie, and in that instant, I would fall apart. Years of training had taught me to control my emotions. Anger, greed, desire, all of it had to be restrained, hidden from the world. But holding her again, my tears wouldn't stop. They fell uncontrollably, drenching her shoulders, soaking into my skin. My arms wrapped around her, locking her against me as if I could press her into my bones, as if I could fold her up and keep her in my pocket forever, so she would never leave again. I regretted it. I truly regretted it. She had told me, more than once, that there were things in this world far more important than power and profit. I was the one who ignored her, the one who refused to believe her, the one who, in my arrogance, my selfishness, drove her to her death. She should hate me. She should resent me. She should curse my name, wish for my destruction, wish for my ruin. I would accept it all. I deserved it all, as long as it meant she could take out her anger. But still, after throwing money at gods and ghosts for years, could I be shameless enough to beg? To plead for another life? A life where she would be there, too? Day after day, living felt meaningless. Somehow, I found myself back in Yunnan, standing at the bridge where she had jumped, staring at the rushing waters below. She was afraid of the cold. So what kind of despair had she felt, diving into that freezing river? She hated pain. When the water swallowed her, when it filled her lungs, did she curl into herself? Did she try to cry out? Did she reach for someone, hoping for a hand that never came? I climbed over the bridge railing, standing at the edge. I looked down at the relentless current, the white caps laced with red rose petals, the jagged rocks waiting below. And in the water, I saw her, eyes closed, lips curved into a gentle smile. I stretched out my arms and tipped forward. One step. Weightlessness. The sudden dizziness of falling. 10 years. For 10 years, I had lived alone in this world. Time hadn't erased my feelings for her. Instead, it had sharpened them, etching every smile, every glance, every tiny habit into my memory with unbearable clarity. For 10 years, every time I woke up gasping in the middle of the night, every time the nightmares took hold, I curled up, clutching her photograph, whispering to her ghost. Diana once told me, no one is so important that you can't live without them. At the time, I agreed, but now, I want to tell her, that's not true. Without her, I truly, truly cannot live. So next time, Diana, please, I beg you, have mercy on me.